Ave Regina, Mater misericordiae, vita dulcedo, estes nostra salve.
The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to John. There was a feast of the Jews, and Jesus went up to Jerusalem. Now there is in Jerusalem at the sheep gate a pool called in Hebrew Bethesda, with 5 porticos. In these lay large numbers of ill, blind, lame, and crippled. One man was there who had been ill for 38 years. When Jesus saw him lying there and knew that he had been ill for a long time, he said to him, "Do you want to be well?" The sick man answered him, "Sir, I have no one to put me into the pool when the water is stirred up. While I am on my way, someone else gets down there before me." Jesus said to him, "Rise, take up your mat, and walk." Immediately the man became well, and took his mat and walked. Now that day was a Sabbath. So the Jews said to the man who was cured, It is the Sabbath, and it is not lawful for you to carry your mat." He answered them, "A man who made me well told me, 'Take up your mat and walk.'" They asked him, "Who is the man who told you, 'Take it up and walk'?" The man was healed and did not know who it was, for Jesus had slipped away, since there was a crowd there. After this, Jesus found him in the temple area, and said to him, "Look, you are well. Do not sin anymore, so that nothing worse may happen to you." The man went and told the Jews that Jesus was the one who had made him well. Therefore the Jews began to persecute Jesus, because he did this on the Sabbath. The Gospel of the Lord. The image of the water flowing from the temple, from the prophet Ezekiel, is an image of baptism. It's a flood of water being poured from a mount to make come alive the Garden of Eden to its original pristine quality. The water is giving life to everywhere where it flows. Beautiful image of baptism, and a beautiful image of the cleansing that we receive in baptism, where Eden is restored in our soul. You notice that in the gospel, Jesus has nothing to do with leading this crippled man to the pool. That's not necessary. That's not what he needs. There's a moral implication of the fact that that man represents a person who's been baptized. But there's other things that are at hand. You notice Jesus tells him, implying that his problem was not physical, it was spiritual. Sin caused him to be, for 38 years, ill. Something he did that was sinful affected and afflicted him. And on this day, he doesn't need baptism because he's already been baptized. We can speak figuratively there. And so you could say that Jesus hears his confession, and he is healed through the sacrament of reconciliation. I've seen this many times, people coming to confession. I've seen it many times and often. After saying their sins, people will say, "I something happened to me, Father. Or I've had people come back to me after a little while and say, you know, when I came to confession, my physical ailment was gone. So the sacrament of reconciliation not only has a quality of being a forgiveness of sins, but when the sins are forgiven, they can release us from bondage of physical illnesses, which God loves to pour out on us as he did for this man. And he told him to get up and walk and take his mat. So he did. This is the beauty of the sacrament of reconciliation. It has a reach that we don't appreciate, that we can be healed internally and externally as God decides. And so don't be afraid to go to the sacrament of reconciliation to find your healing.
Regina Celi, letare, alleluia, qui aquam merum isti portare, alleluia, resurrexit sicut dixit, alleluia.